everyone. Welcome. I'm Rachel with Artisans of Nations, a storytelling platform dedicated to elevating Indigenous voices through arts and culture. We're here at the 5th Annual Msvskoke Art Market at River Spirit Casino in Tulsa, and it's an honor to share these Artist Talk series in partnership with Muscogee Nation. And we're going to kick off our first talk with none other than the woodworker himself, Dan Beaver. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Please share with our audience a little bit about you, your own origin story, and the type of art that you make.
I am I guess it would be a woodworker. I do wood burning on different wood styles. I do, like I said, which is Gunstock war clubs, or war clubs, or traditional name for them is called Itonufkos. Ito means wood, Nufkos is hitting wood. I've been doing this for, over 25 years. Just recently retired from law enforcement, and this was kind of part of my stress relief was woodworking and stuff like that, just to getting that aspect of relieving stress, being in law enforcement, some sort of outlet. So I started doing that, and it kind of snowballed from there. I started doing it for tribal leaders as they would give each other gifts, to awards, to family heirlooms, to started museums, and museums started wanting some, and it just became a blessing in itself.
Can you name some of the museums that feature your work?
Smithsonian Institution of Native American History in Washington, D.C., Emory College Museum in Atlanta, Georgia, the Cowboy Hall of Fame Museum in Oklahoma City. I believe there's one down in Philadelphia, Mississippi, the Choctaw Museum, and I want to say there's one in Tishomingo, a Chickasaw Museum in Tishomingo.
Wow, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your art process here, and what do these motifs and symbolism mean?
I'm what they call like a Southeastern or a mountain period artist or motif style. The reason I like the style of that is because, to me, that's one of the cleanest forms of art that's for any kind of outside influence from any kind of invader or explorer, I guess you would say. And so a lot of that style depicts a lot of wind, a lot of water designs, a lot of animals they would see at that time, spiders, snakes, panthers. To me, it's a very clean design. Mm. And this is kind of like a river design.
Oh, nice.
With the arcs on it. Raging river, water, and like this one's the same thing, kind of like of a wind design, like a thunderstorm design is what I call it. And it just, like I said, it's one of those deals I can sit down and draw it, and sometimes it comes to me, and like I said, there's sometimes I sit down and I don't get a stick figure. It won't come out of me, and but I've been very fortunate where I can sit down and usually draw out something and then get an idea, and it starts rolling, getting bigger and bigger, and then I start adding to it.
Mm. What inspired you to start?
Talking to a lot of my elders, I've always wondered about our traditional weapon, a war club, and a lot of them would say ball sticks, or that, or of course the bow and arrow and spears and stuff like that. But I always want to know, there's got to be something else, because there's also been, like a war club or a ball club. And I knew we had something like that, and the more digging I did, the more it came to light that we did have one. It was actually like the ball club, or even the gunstock style. It didn't necessarily have the blade in it. But the last time we used that weapon was Battle of Horseshoe Bend against Andrew Jackson down in the Alabama area, which that was our last war with the United States. And at that time, of course, Andrew Jackson won that war and won that battle, and he started the Indian Removal Act, which is Trail of Tears, and which got us to present day, Indian Territory, which is Oklahoma. And so I started asking a lot of questions in reference to that weapon, and what was the traditional name for it? How big was it? And what did it look like? What it was made out of? Mm-hmm. And a lot of bugging a lot of my elders, and they finally kind of let me into a lot of it. And the oldest name I could gather was Itonufkos, which Ito means wood, and Nufkos kind of like hitting wood. And because our language is a descriptive language, we describe what we're talking about. Mm. So it kind of makes sense they call this hitting wood. And it's kind of just snowballed, and I started making them, and then come to find out other tribes tribal members from other nations was wanting one too, and it kind of rode from there. Then I had powwow dancers, northern traditional dancers, or any kind of woodland style dancers would ask for ball clubs, and started making them for them too. And like I said, just kind of word of mouth kind of blew up and went from here to here to here.
What has been your most surprising part of your artist journey?
I guess the most surprising part is people liking my artwork in general, because to me, I just, I like drawing. To me, I guess I'd be considered artist. To me, I don't really look at myself as art. I just look at it as a guy that likes to draw on wood and make things out of wood. It's kind of cool looking to me. And every time I make one, I always try to make it the way I would want it, the way I would have it, because then that way I know I'm putting out a special custom club or a custom item. And when people come up to me and tell me that they like the design, they're just amazed. It warms my heart and soul, and it's kind of a blessing. I'm just in awe that people actually like what I do, and it blows me away, especially when like winning awards and getting put in museums, or having museums, or even these colleges call me asking me to do a item for them. I just, I'm like, I'm just a little Indian boy from Wetumpka. I can make one, but I'm just blessed and I'm honored to be able to keep doing this. And I think the only downside about it is, I'm the last member of our tribe. So out of 130,000 plus members, I'm the only one left making this war club. Wow. It's kind of sad, but on the bright side of that, my son knows how to make them. Now, he's not I hate to say artist per se, but he knows how to make the weapon. I told him, as long as you know how to make it, that's the only thing I'm worried about. The artwork is a plus, but it's not a need, So I'm just very happy that he knows how to make it. And lucky I got 2 more grandsons coming along, so hopefully I can teach them too.
That's great. A little bit more about this legacy that you're mentioning, whether your son or your grandsons or other tribal members of Muscogee Nation, what do you hope that this inspires or imparts to others?
Well, I hope that it'll get a lot of our youth more involved and, being more active in their community by making these things and taking pride in what they can do with their own bare hands. I have been asked about putting on classes, which I have no problem with, but I hate to say it, but a lot of the youth nowadays want everything now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to put the work in, and I know there's some that would, but it's one of those deals. You got to get in there and learn it by hand. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from these mistakes, and that's just part of it. It's like when I was teaching my son, I explained to him, because he was getting kind of agitated that the shape didn't look right. He'd cut out multiple and shape it out, and it still didn't look right. And I told him, well, your hardest critic's going to be you. Nobody else really is concerned about how it looks, because as long as you like what you're doing, you can make anything. And it took him a little bit to understand that, but then he started working with it, and you can see the pride growing in him. Every time I make something, he was just happy about it. So it was a real blessing to see him learn that.
That's beautiful. I'm so curious, for those who aren't familiar with Southeastern Indigenous art, when someone looks at these, immediately they look scary or dangerous. And what are some responses that you give to folks who aren't familiar with your work?
Yeah, a lot of them, they'll say, well, can I use it? Will it work? And I'm kind of hesitant telling them, because I don't want to be brung into anything. but usually, a lot of mine, if you notice, will not have pins in the blades to hold the blades in. They're more artistic. Now, I do have some that have pins in them, and basically, when you're pinning that blade to wood, it's made like a knife. Okay. A knife will have 2 pins in the handle to secure that blade to that handle. Same thing here. But I always tell them, anything can be a weapon. It's up to you to determine what that's going to be. But I always sort of remind them, I said, they are kind of expensive. If you want to spend that kind of money and bash it into something, that's on you, because a lot of these, like I said before, I took a lot of pride and a lot of time in them, because I make them like the way I would want one. And that way I know I'm putting out something that's beautiful, and I know that, that at least I know it's something to my grade, what I would want. And so, I get a lot of, can you use it on somebody? And I really want to tell them, I don't want to tell them no, but, But yeah, you get a lot of that, which is fine. That just comes with it.
I'm so curious too. Of you mentioned being acquired in the Smithsonian and other college institutions. What has been one of your favorite or even largest piece that you've made?
I would say, of course, the Smithsonian one, because that was something that just knocked me off my feet when I talked to the curator, and he was like, "Well, it's for the Smithsonian." Oh. And I guess it didn't really hit me until he came back with the paperwork like that much, because the federal government's buying it, so it was like that much. But that would be one. That's one of the ones I'm really proud of. That I know that being in the Smithsonian, that's something that's going to always be there. It's documented. My family name's documented for the War Club. That one, and President Biden owned a plate I did in the White House when he was in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of blows me away. I sit back and think about it.
Wow, that's really special. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Remarkable work. And what's something is there anything that you're looking forward to in the coming years? Anything that you could share with our audience of that nature?
Well, with little things like this, getting out and getting on social media and growing in that, I'm starting to get a lot more calls from schools, which I love. I love going to schools and talking with the youth and explaining to youth of these items and showing seeing in their face and their eyes light up like they had no idea that this was even here, even still here. And just, I think that allows the door to be open for other artists to come in and show their artwork and actually teach a lot of their artwork, because the only thing I see that it's negative is stuff like this really only comes important, it seems like, during Native American Month. And it shouldn't be like that.
Right.
It should be throughout the year, because during that time, it's hard for me. I get a lot of calls from schools to come in, and it's hard for me to go to all these schools, and I don't want to leave anybody left out, but I always explain to them, I can come up during the year. It don't have to be Native American Month for me to, come out. But I think with us, stuff like this, getting out there and letting the public know that there is still artists out there willing to teach and willing to show this, I think it'll open up a lot of youth's mind, and when it comes to artwork and coming to culture and history, that they can still do this, and there's still people out like us out here willing to teach it and show it.
Well, before I open it up to any questions from our audience, how can we find you, and how can we get in touch with you if someone wanted to reach out?
On Facebook, I believe it's under Dan Beaver. You actually have a picture of me. I don't have a website, because each one I make is original, so I'm constantly changing. So it's hard to keep up with the website. So Facebook or Red Hand Designs, and on Facebook also, and also Instagram. I think it's Red Hand Designs on Instagram also. Any
questions from our big audience out here? Any questions for Dan?
All but my cousin. I don't want him to ask anything.
So did you do artwork when you was young?
When I was younger, I did like a lot of kids back in the day. I drew on the desk, little things like that. I drew on notebooks, and it wasn't like this Southeastern, because I didn't know anything about it at that time. But yes, I did, like a lot of kids did, drew on a lot of things, and I did take up a drawing, because in Wetumpka there's really not much to do in Wetumpka. And when you're young there and don't have a lot of means of getting out of town, I think back then the biggest thing was go swimming. That was like the dinner bell almost. When you say go swimming, everybody had loaded up. Mm-hmm. But if you're not swimming, you're either stuck at the house cutting grass or cutting wood. So in between those times, I'll sit there and draw on a lot and kind of just look out the window and see if I can draw a bird before it moves. So a lot of my drawings are pretty fast when it comes to that. Or just look at when I look at a turtle show, I remember seeing the first Eastern style turtle show with the yellow markings on the back. I remember seeing that and just thinking, that's a lot of detail, and just to see if I could do a lot of this stuff, just to see if I can do it. And it kind of just snowballed from there. And I remember growing up in Wetumpka, artwork wasn't really a big thing back in the late 70s, early 80s. It wasn't really a big thing, and it's not like it is now with everything out with being social media. So art was never like a occupation option. Mm-hmm. We had to you had to figure out either you was going to work for the tribe or become a oil field worker. That was like really the only two options. And my dad at the time, he was a welder, so I was thinking, well, I'm just going to be like a welder, didn't think anything of much. And I did want to go to the art school, but, like I said, I didn't know really much about art school until I was a senior in high school. And by then, there wasn't really that many options to get to art school. It wasn't like it is now with all these casinos actually helping the tribe send a lot of youth to these schools and training like that. There was an option back then. I think back then the only thing we had was like smoke shops and bingo halls, and that was basically it. But yeah.
What's the spiritual tie to that?
To these?
Yeah.
To me, the spiritual tie is like a lot of these youths were saying, still here. To me, when I draw one of these, I think about, this artwork, this design is something that not many people have seen, but it's part of our history. It's part of who we are, and it's not just, it's not just Muskogee, because I've had, can you put a Muskogee design? And I explain to people, it's not a Muskogee design, it's a Southeastern design. It was Chickasaws, Choctaws, Cherokees, all those woodland tribes down in the area used the same type of style, and it wasn't separated like it is. And the only reason we became separated like that is because the government, when you're going to be Choctaw, this is Cherokee, it wasn't like that because we all had to kind of like the same belief. And so when I do stuff like this, I like to think, that it's still keeping me connected to the land of where we're from. I mean, granted, we're not from here, but it lets our ancestors and elders know that, that I haven't forgotten about them, their struggles and their push through the Trail of Tears, their push through explorers, invaders, their persecution of just because of the color of their skin or the way they spoke. They didn't suffer through all that for me to forget about where we're from.
So that club, would it be, would you say it would be symbolization of the fight?
Of the fight of being
our people?
Of our people, of us still being here. And just to be able to do this, like I said, especially when I go to schools and I see our young people there, it's to remind them that we're still here, we're still resilient. There's still people out here you can learn from that's willing to teach you and basically, like I said, to keep it going. That's what I always wanted with this is to let our youth know that we are still here, and there's no reason why you cannot learn from us. Every little attribute to me like that is a building block of what a tribal person grew up to be and still hold true, because our language is fading away every day, and it's sad that it's like that. But along with our languages, our culture, our heritage, our artwork, our ceremonial items. I feel like every day when we lose an elder, that's a big chunk that's losing out of a piece of our family that we're not going to get back. And I always hope and pray that they come from a big family, because I know somewhere's in that family that whatever they said, whatever they taught, because we're oral history people, which means we don't write things down. We tell our elder, we tell our kids, we tell our grandkids, and that's how our history keeps going. And I always tell people that if you want to learn about who you are as a Creek citizen or Muskogee citizen, participate in your native ceremonial grounds. I ain't saying you have to dance, I'm saying listen, go out there and they'll tell you, they'll talk to you. Go to your traditional churches, they'll tell you, they'll talk to you. And all it takes sometimes is when they ask you, who's your family? And you tell them your family, oh, then it snowballs. The next thing you know, oh, that's your cousin sitting over there, or that's your aunt's camp, or your cousin's camp, or, it just grows and you can see it blooming. And the next thing you know, you go to a church or a ceremonial ground wondering, is this your family's ground? And when you leave out, you realize you got 10 or 15 more cousins that you didn't even know about.
Those are great questions. Thank you for asking.
Told you, my cousin.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts that you want to add? I think that's super important.
Every day is a blessing. My grandma always told me, be thankful you wake up every day. As soon as you wake up and take that first breath, thank the Creator, because he gave you that breath today for a reason. It's a blessing in general. So if you have a bad rest of the day, you get up, spill coffee on yourself, you stump your toe, you go to work late, that's not the point. The point is you was important enough the Creator blew air into you to make you wake up that day for his own plan. And as long as you keep that in mind, Everything else is just water underneath the bridge.
That's a blessing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really important. Well, thanks for your time and
I do.
sharing about your story, about your art and culture. And we are still here. You and your tribe are still here. And all the many blessings to you and your
thank you.
family.
You too.
Yeah. To our audience who's listening, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the conversation. Again, we're so grateful to do this in partnership with Muscogee Nation. You can find Artisans of Nations online and on Instagram. You can listen to our podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple channels at Artisans of Nations. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep sharing your stories. Peace. It's been such an honor to be a part of this weekend. Thank you again to our listeners. Thank you to Mvskoke Nation. And thank you to the artists who have shared their stories, their wisdom, and art with us.